Good morning and welcome to Ask a Traffic Cop. My name is Sean Shapiro and it's Tuesday, the 5th, all day of July. Very excited to be here today. Lots of stuff to talk about. We always have a lot of stuff to talk about. Not only are we talking about stuff and things that matter to us, we're really focused on things that matter to you. We are the Toronto Police Traffic Services Unit. This is the Traffic Safety Programs Office. So what do we do here? We answer your questions about traffic and police stuff. Traffic law, traffic safety. Want to know about an exhaust system? Because that's in the news today. Loud noise on mufflers, yeah, it's making that's ruffling some feathers. It's actually been a problem for a long time, but there was an article that they quoted me in it, really wild. So that's something. We are going to be talking about Vision Zero enforcement team, the Harley Davidson that's being raffled off in support of Special Olympics Ontario. We want to talk about the fact that it's camp time and different things are happening around the city. It's not what was happening 2 days ago. Today is the first day or second day of camp for most, and yeah, different. Moving around. I got to say I like the traffic or the lack thereof. I'm driving through what would be traffic if it wasn't for the fact that the world is currently rotating in alignment with my schedule. I really appreciate it, world. I hope everyone's doing well and that your air conditioning is working, because if you may see the large droplets of sweat beating down my brow and forehead, yeah, that is because it's hot in here. Yes, it is. No air conditioning. There is a fan. I apologize for the background noise. It is probably more annoying to me than it is to you, but I apologize in any case. I know Q is probably pulling her hair out going, why do they torture me with these noises? So let's talk about Vision Zero enforcement team. We'll get it out of the way. It is the 5th of July, and that means that both 12 Division and 42 Division have extra officers. Those are Vision Zero enforcement officers. Why are they out there? What do? They go and change driver behavior one ticket at a time. No hugs provided. Even if you ask nicely, it's really, really awkward. Divisions don't mean anything to the average person. So what does it mean? Where are they? They are in the communities, the neighborhoods of Weston, Mount Dennis, Rockcliffe, Smythe, Malvern, Agincourt, Milliken, Rouge, Scarborough. That's where they are. And they're making a difference. They are changing the way that drivers behave, because they're looking for drivers who are engaged in the behaviors we know lead to serious injury and death on our roads. They are looking for people who choose to speed, drive aggressively, drive distracted, or drive impaired. Now, obviously, if they see other things, they're going to issue tickets for those other things too. They don't have that binocular vision where they're only that focus on one thing, ignore the rest. They're looking for anything that's a violation, but they do focus their efforts on the stuff that leads to serious injury and death. We are not only on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. We're everywhere. Where is everywhere? Well, we're on YouTube, Twitch, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch. I said Twitch twice. Instagram and TikTok. Yeah, I know I said a couple of them twice. We're everywhere. See, by saying it twice, it sounds bigger. Anyway, we have 579,502 followers on TikTok right now. If you're new to the channel, you don't follow us, please join. You make the ticker beside me go up, which is cool. I like that. But more importantly, you'll get notified when we go live, which is weekdays between 10 a.m. and 11 a.m. Eastern. Now, tomorrow we're going to be on for an hour and a half. Why? Why we'll be on for an extra half an hour? Sean, don't you have other things to do? I do, but I value your time. And your time means I am going to be going on air with Jerry Agar on News Talk 1010 at 9:30, and I don't want to cut into the hour that I give you. So not only do I go on for the half an hour with Jerry, which I share on TikTok and all the platforms, but I also do the full hour with you guys, because this is really all about you. Where else can you get a copper staring at you through his phone to your phone answering your questions? Well, I don't think there's anywhere else in the world that does it, so we do it. We do it, so there's one person in the world doing it, and that's me, the TikTok traffic cop. That's Jerry Agar's name for me. Volley, if you want to ask questions in a unique way, if you want to have direct access to send me a voicemail, a video file, or a text, use VolleyApp. Now, if you go to VoiceOver Cop on Twitter, you can see a link to get us into the community. I saw a couple of people join this morning. Good morning to you. If you're watching and you joined, you know who you are. But yeah, we've got a bunch of people who are growing into this community, and that's where you can ask questions all the time, and I might be able to use those videos to play back during a live. It's a cool thing. We can actually play your audio and share what it is with everybody else. Okay, let's get into some questions, because I know that's why you're here. Let's start with, what is the difference? Okay, here we go. G1 driver can take a road for G2 test sooner. I think that made I have to readdress all those words into the appropriate order so I understand what you're saying. I think what you mean is, can a G1 driver get a road test for a G2 test or a G2 road test sooner, or how can you do it? So here's the answer. If you get your G1, you have to drive for 12 months prior to getting your G2 road test. Well, how do you make it faster? There's two ways, actually. One is if you're coming from a country and are awarded a certain amount of experience, they might escalate or expedite your process. But more importantly, if you take a professional driving instruction, a course with a driving school, that is when you get it cut down to 8 months from 12. So that's really important to know. Everyone should take driving courses. Do not rely on mom, dad, brother, sister, cousin, uncle. Those people have their own bad habits. They're not professional teachers. They may know great stuff, but they may not communicate it well. And that's where problems occur. That's when bad habits get transferred. We are in another day of Q&A No Worky. Oddly enough, it works on the VoiceOver Cop channel. So TikTok's VoiceOver Cop channel, when you go on there, I can do it. I don't really go live there, but when I do, Q&A works. So why doesn't it work here? Well, I don't know, but I have asked the people in charge, and hopefully, we'll get that resolved for you. I know it's an inconvenience, but we're working. Now, if you're watching us on Twitter, my apologies, it don't work either. But you can come over to any of the other platforms to join us, and you can ask us questions there. Instagram Live does have a Q&A that works. I don't like saying good things about Instagram. It's not my favorite app, but it does work. So I have to give them credit where credit is due. And you can come onto YouTube and all of the other platforms where, like Nigel, who says, hi, Sean. He's coming in from LinkedIn. Rob Baker coming in from YouTube. Sean Chen with a good morning coming in from YouTube. Kayla Draconis also on YouTube. And my wife, who's watching on YouTube on a giant television screen. It's amazing. I have an Apple TV, so I am currently like 65 inches in my living room. For my wife's enjoyment, because she likes me enough to watch me on TV. And it's the only person that I'm actually on TV for. Otherwise, it's just the computer. All right. What do we got here? We have more stuff and things to discuss. Let me go. Oh, there's a whole bunch. Thank you for the curated list of questions. I have assistants today. What is the difference between a white and yellow speed sign? That's a fantastic question. A white sign is a regulated sign. It is an enforced sign. A yellow sign is a suggested or cautionary sign. One will get you a ticket. The other one may find you, when you disobey it, losing control because under certain circumstances, they're telling you that that's the fastest you should be going for safety. Will we write you a ticket for a yellow sign? No, we will not. The white sign is the regulated one. It's the one that we would issue you a ticket for violating. But it is probably a smart thing to do to follow the rules or the suggestions of the yellow sign because they're there for a reason. What is this? Can a police officer pull over two cars at the same time? I seen OPP pull two at the same time this weekend. Yeah. You can pull over cars. You direct them to pull over. If they don't pull over, it's a violation. There's no rule. There may be a rule in the policy that says you shouldn't, or that it's not safe, or various things. But legally, yes, they can issue direction, and you must follow it. Okay. By the way, I haven't been playing the music in the background. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? I know my wife is not a fan of it. What do you guys think? Let me know. I want to know. Because if you want music, I have a button I can press and it plays our funky stuff in the background. It may or may not be better. You let me know and we make it so. Can you make a left turn on a red light if intersection is about 10 to 15 meters from the what? Can you make a left turn? Oh, a left turn on red. Left turn on red. What country are you in? Left turn on red. I'm not following, because if you're making a left turn on a red, you're running a red. Unless you're in the intersection already when it turned red, at which point you're obligated to clear the intersection. Otherwise, you get a ticket for failing to clear the signalized intersection. So if you are talking about a right turn on red, that's a different story. If you're talking about one where the white line is 10 to 15 meters behind where the right turn is, you'd be proceeding through a red light to get to that turn. You can't do that. That does not look right. I've looked at it. I've questioned it myself, and I don't think it's right. I think you can be charged for it, and I wouldn't do it. Oh, we got, I think it's Andrew who's saying that he does not like the music in the background. Not sure funky is the word for it. All right. Moving on. If I've misinterpreted everything in that left turn, right turn question, please rephrase it and let me know. Once I've written my A, can I drive with someone that has their full A license? So oddly enough, my understanding, and I'm not a CVSA guy, but my understanding is if you are a qualified A, you can supervise a qualified G to be in the instruction of the use of the vehicle. But you need to check. I would check with a truck driving school. I am not the right person to ask for this, but I would happily look into it. I've never driven a big rig. How do parking fines improve community safety? Oh, I'm so glad you asked. Although I am not the parking maven, I will tell you that parking infractions, when people choose to violate parking rules, they slow down the city. They create frustration for all road users because people are constantly trying to navigate around vehicles. Well, what happens when you're navigating around a vehicle in a narrow street? Often you cause a collision. Sometimes when you are changing lanes unnecessarily, other than to get around the person who is violating the parking laws, you are causing congestion that ricochets, or not, ricochet is the wrong word. It's, that kind of sort of works. It cascades. It ripples is a good word, and affects all sorts of people. And when people get angry, well, A, the movement could cause a collision. B, when they get upset and get aggravated on their drive because of all of these parked cars, that also changes driver behavior. All of these things negatively impact the people who are trying to get through the city. So when you are being fined for parking, hopefully you change your driving habits. You stop parking illegally. You start driving better, and other people will thank you for it, and you won't get tickets. But following the law is important. Okay, what are special constables? They're special, and they're constables. No, they are not full police officers. They have some police powers, expanded powers while they're at work, and when they get off duty, they're citizens again. I was a special constable in court services when I started. That's how I began my paid career with the service. Now, we have lots of them. We have more now than ever before, and they take over certain responsibilities in policing. They don't carry firearms, and again, they don't have full police powers, but they do have authority, and you got to listen to them. Okay, what do I want to talk about while we do this? Stephen Bell says, "Good morning, Officer Sean." Good morning. And Q's on Twitch, and okay. Let me just see here. I said I was going to take care of the person on Instagram for using the actual Q&A functionality. Let me do that. We have one car and 3 drivers. Can the other drivers keep a photocopy of the ownership? Fantastic question. So in Ontario, you need not carry an original ownership. You can carry a photocopy, what's called a true copy. Both sides have to be represented, and it has to be of a valid permit. So yes, everyone can carry, for the ownership purposes, a copy. For insurance, you have to have an actual pink card, or you can use the electronic version if it's provided by your insurance provider. So that means if you are given an app that you can show electronic proof, then that's okay. A photograph, a picture of your pink card or your insurance card, not sufficient. In terms of your driver's license, obviously everyone has to carry their own. And what do we have here? Do you have to move over safely for vehicles merging into a highway? So if people are getting, you need to give people room to get on, otherwise you're creating an issue. Now, part of that is not accelerating to prevent them, because that's a violation. That could be stunt driving, that could be careless driving, could be a couple of different ways to interpret it. But you're not allowed to prevent someone from getting into a lane. Not only is it rude, but it's unsafe. So do you have to let them in? Safety would suggest you should. And you can be charged if you're doing things to prevent them. What do we have here? If your phone is in a bracket attached to the car and you're touching it, can you get a ticket? Yes. You are not allowed to touch your handheld communication device other than to have a simple swipe to answer or hang up. That is it. That is all. You cannot change songs. You cannot read emails. You cannot text mom. No other contact with your phone. It is considered a handheld communication device despite the fact that it's in a mount. That's the story. $615 is the fine. Demerit points and suspension ensue once you are convicted. Oh, it's really warm in here. Okay. Do you do roadside emissions testing? No, we do not do roadside emissions testing. I've never heard of roadside emissions testing. We do look at vehicles if they have exhaust systems or exhaust mufflers, or if they have resonators, if they're making unnecessary noise, they can be charged for that. Or at least the cars aren't, but the drivers are charged for violations there. Is it illegal to pass in a double or single yellow solid line? It's unsafe. It's suggested that you don't. That's why they have those lines. They're cautionary. They tell you what is safe and what is not safe. If you choose to do it, you might cause a collision. You'd be responsible for that collision, but there's no charge specific to crossing the line. Not in Ontario, although it might be in your jurisdiction. So know the laws of your area before you choose to do things that are wild and crazy. In fact, just don't do things that are unsafe. Know that those lines are there to keep you safe. A yellow line means that the traffic on the other side of the line is coming at you. It is going in the opposite direction. So good things to know. All right. Can you legally make a left? What do we say this? Can you legally make a left turn from the middle lane when there is a dedicated left turn lane? No, that would be an improper turn. So if there are 2 left lanes, you can. But if the left lane if the center lane is a through lane, you cannot make a left turn from it. You need to be in the appropriate lane. That is important. Are angel eyes, why is this not updating? Here it comes. Are red angel eyes around headlights allowed on a vehicle? You're not allowed to project red light forward. Now, interpretation of the law may differ between officers, so that someone may see that and say, it's an accent light, it's not projecting light. Others will say, yeah, I see it, thus it's projecting, thus it meets the requirement. Red light to the front confuses drivers. The only light projected to the front should be, well, it shouldn't, unless it's a police vehicle or an ambulance or so on. So, don't put anything red on the front of the vehicle is the best way to go. Certainly, if it flickers in any way, shape, or form, that's going to be eligible for additional charges for intermittent flashes of red light and such. Don't put red on the front. Just simple as that. Harley Draw. Thanks, Akela, for reminding me. Harley Draw. Want to be a good human being? I mean, a great human being? I mean, fantastic human being? Yeah. Support Special Olympics Ontario by buying a ticket to their Harley Draw. HarleyRaffle.ca allows you to buy a ticket, 1 for 20, 3 for 50, and you are entered into a draw where I think there's only 7,000 tickets, and you could win a brand new Harley-Davidson cruising motorcycle. Just a gorgeous, gorgeous machine. I've sat on it. I did put my rear end print on the seat when I sat on it, so it's even better now. So it's a fantastic motorcycle. I wish I could win it. I have to buy tickets myself. I keep saying I'm going to do it, and I haven't done it yet. So if you want to make sure you get tickets before I get tickets, because maybe that's good for you, you should make sure that you buy them today before they're gone, because there's only 7,000 tickets available. Okay. Can police use their lights in a non-emergency situation, or is it against policy? Well, what is a non-emergency situation? So anything that we need to do that's lawful is justifiable. Like we turn our lights on to pull someone over. That's not an emergency. That's to enforce the law. So there's a lawful purpose. We can use them. If we're talking about going through a red light to get to the other side because we are urgently going somewhere, or we see something, or we're investigating, if it's a lawful purpose, we can do it legally. Now, fire and ambulance cannot. They have to have it. So they have specific criteria that must be met in order to activate their equipment for purposes like traffic clearing and going through intersections. We don't have the same criteria, and that really bothers some people because we get more privileges. It's more potential for liability. Every time we activate our lights, it's recorded, it's sent to dispatch, they see it. Every time that we go over a certain speed, well, they can probably see our speed all the time, but we get specific alerts if we go over certain speeds. We have to articulate everything we do, and when we activate lights, our recording system goes on. Again, we have to be able to justify, and people check on us all the time. Our supervisors do. There's random checks. We don't want to do anything that's going to get us in trouble. Even rolling through a stop sign, I know officers who have been dinged 4 hours pay, 8 hours pay for going through a stop sign on their way to an emergency call, but we're not allowed to just go through a stop sign. We have to stop first, make sure it's safe, and then continue. So when people roll through it, we can get dinged, and that's time. That's money out of our pockets. So we are encouraged to follow the rules, or we are punished. It's documented. Not a good thing. Is there a limit to how long a Class G driver can drive their car? No, there's no limit, as there is in commercial motor vehicles, where you have a limit of how many hours in a day you can drive. Now, fatigue is a form of impairment. So, if you're all over the road, you're probably going to get pulled over and investigated, if not arrested, for impaired driving. And then whether charges are laid is a different story. But impairment by fatigue is real, even if it's not a criminal offense per se. Hey, Sarge, are you joining us? I think he's joining us. Ladies and gentlemen, Sergeant Murray Campbell, putting on headphones, walking to the mic. The mic is being raised up. Hi, how you doing?
Hey, Sean, how are you?
I am doing fairly well. I am warm. The heat is starting to be felt.
Yes, it is. It is rather warm in here. Apparently, air conditioner parts are on back order.
So it might be a season of sweating.
It could be.
We were just discussing going. What was the question exactly? We were talking about going through lights for emergency. Here it is. I want to find the exact wording. Can police use their lights in non-emergency situations, or is it against policy? And we were discussing the fact that there's many reasons why we might need to use our lights that aren't emergency per se. Pulling over a vehicle, pursuing somebody to pull them over isn't an emergency at someone's in life threatening situations, but it still qualifies for our use.
Right, and it has to be in the performance of our duties. It can't be just because we're going to Tim Hortons or late for going home early, or those things. So
oddly enough, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, and all the risk is on us.
Yeah, I said
we don't do it an awful lot unless we need to.
But apparently, everybody on TikTok has seen at least once a day a police officer go through a red light just to get to Tim Hortons faster. I don't buy it.
You don't buy Tim Hortons?
I don't buy that I would do that. We're paid by the hour, so if it takes an extra few minutes, big deal. Unless it's an emergency, really encouraging us to be there fast, saving somebody. Why would we put the risk on? And the only thing that I can come up with is why somebody maybe in the course of their day seen this is if I was going hot to a call and it got canceled, and then the first place to pull over and relax for a few minutes was Tim Hortons.
Right, and quite honestly. You may have experienced this as well. It's quicker to move through certain traffic without your lights on. So yes, I may turn it on to go through an intersection. Yes, I may have the siren going. And then I may turn it off right afterwards because some people do some really, really strange things when they have a police car behind them with the lights going. And it's sometimes safer, sometimes quicker, more efficient to just slide through traffic that way as opposed to with all the lights.
Well, that's like Kuda Jeff's comment, who says he's seen cops go through lights when not in a hurry. And that's exactly the situation. We leave our lights off because it's safer to get through traffic. People do some wild, wild, wild things when they see lights and sirens. I've had people stop directly in front of me thinking I want them to stop, when in fact I just need to get to where I'm going. So lights off when going to most calls, unless absolutely necessary.
And you know what? There are times that you definitely want to turn off your lights because you don't want to alert somebody that you are actually coming. So, yes, it's an emergency situation, but I'll turn off the lights and it'll be around the corner and they won't hear me arriving. So.
Yes, telling the bad guy that you're coming for officer safety and for the safety of the people inside. Create a hostage situation, all sorts of bad reasons we don't want to alert bad guys of our arrival. A question specifically for you. Do you have to safety your 3500 dually every year or e-test it if not used for commercial?
If it is not used for commercial, it depends on the weight rating that it has been registered for. There is a weight rating. I'm not sure what it is, but yes, you do have to have the yellow device. They call it a device, but it's a sticker that goes on your...
It's a sticky device.
Yep, and it's all to do with the weight and the taxes you pay to operate on the road.
Hey, for anyone who's just jumping in the channel, who's new to us, who doesn't know who I am, my name is Sean Shapiro. I'm a police constable at the Toronto Police Service. The voice that you are hearing in the background is Sergeant Murray Campbell. He is a sergeant here at Traffic Services. He is in charge of the towing side of things, and he's also a media relations officer like myself. So we do this Ask a Traffic Op thing where we talk about you. Well, what's important to you, because you ask us questions and we answer them. So if you have questions, please use the Q&A wherever Q&A works. Some apps don't work right now. I'm not going to name names. But yes, you can also get us on YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, Facebook, everywhere, basically. Ask us questions. We're here to answer. We're here to 11 o'clock. We'll do our best to get to you. Follow us if you don't already follow us, because I can see we have 579,562. I've got a live ticker here. If 788 people were to just hit follow right now, that would jump up considerably. We'd be at 580 plus thousand. I'd love to see that happen, but no pressure. No, not trying to guilt you into follow us. Anyway, yes. Let's go here. We are. Okay, I'm going to go to a different section for questions. Hey, I'm seeing the ticker move. It's moving. Do red light cameras and speed cameras only catch one direction? I believe they do. They catch you from the rear as you go through, as you pass them. They're not bidirectional from what I understand. Now, here's the thing. I might be wrong because we don't run that system, and you shouldn't be speeding or running red lights to find out.
My understanding, and this is from a jurisdiction that is outside of Toronto, and I don't actually know correctly for Toronto or not, is that it is one direction, but it can be either. It can be approaching or it can be going away, depending on the setting. But it can't do both at the same time. So you never know which way it is actually monitoring.
Yeah, the best thing is to simply not put yourself in a situation to be caught by not breaking the law. Just a funny little thing I like to do, which is like follow the law. I might be a law and order kind of guy. I don't know. Yeah,
me too. I got passed by somebody in a school zone yesterday that I knew had a speed enforcement camera, and I watched it go off, and I was approaching it, so it wasn't from behind, and I kind of giggled because the guy was going fast.
It's funny how that works. Yes, it is self-correcting issues, I like to say. What if a child is in the passenger seat? What if a child is in the passenger? I'm not following what the question is. Children can be in the passenger seat legally. Now, manufacturers well, first off, the safest place is the back seat. For anyone who is smaller in size or considered a child, And we say that 14 years old is the earliest you should bring a child forward. And that's not always an option. There are two-seater cars. There is no back seat. In those situations, child seats can be installed in the front. You want to have that seat as far away from the airbags as possible because airbags can be dangerous for young folks and small folks. Now, when you talk about when can you get out of car seats and booster seats, 8 years old, 80 pounds, or 4'9", that is a requirement under law before you can get out of the seat. Now, that doesn't mean it's the safest time to get them out of the seat. There are other safety checks that I would perform to make sure it's appropriate. And my kids are going to be in booster seats until they are too big for the seat, but as long as humanly possible, because I want them to be as safe as possible. How much over can you actually go in the fast lane in a posted 80 zone? Sarge, what do you think? Fastest?
I'm going to say 80.
80, you sure?
80, yeah.
What if there's a wind, a backwind?
No.
No, 80?
No,
80, come
I
on.
think that's it.
So the speed limit is the speed limit, not a suggestion, not a minimum. It is the maximum you can go. You don't have to travel at the speed limit. You can be below the speed limit to some degree. You can't be impeding traffic. And if you're going to be going at or less than the speed limit, stay to the right, because there are going to be those people who are legally permitted to exceed the speed limit, like police, fire, and ambulance. They need to be able to find a place to get through. And if someone is choosing to speed and be unsafe, then let them get by you and let us catch them. It's just simple.
Yeah.
I like that.
You know, you'll pass them in the end anyways, because they'll either have crashed or, gotten pulled over by us.
Question comes in saying, what are the laws about traveling with pets in a car? Well, laws, they can't be on your lap. They can't interfere with your driving. There is no law saying that they have to be tethered, although we really suggest it. There's no law that says they should be crated, but that's another alternative that's safe. They should be in the back seat because it's safe, but there's no law that requiring you to do that. But there are good reasons. So tethering or crating them so that in the event of a collision, they don't become a projectile, they don't get hurt, they don't hurt you. Even if they're not hurt in the collision, if you were trapped in the vehicle unconscious, the window's broken, they get out, they run into traffic and squish, bad day at the office. So for their benefit, if you love them, crate them and or tether them at very least, and something good, and don't have them in your lap. Not only is it unsafe because bad things happen when you get squished by an airbag and a steering wheel with a little, anyway, bad thing. It is also an offense. You can be charged with careless driving or drive while crowded. Any way you cut it, it's a bad day at the office. I got to stop saying bad day at the office, although it's stuck. It's stuck. I said it like 3 times in 1 minute.
I'm at the office. Why?
Well, it's a good day here except for the air conditioning.
That's true.
Okay, we have. What about the orange speed limit on the highway? We talked about that a little while ago. Orange speed limit signs are cautionary. They suggest what the appropriate sign, or they could be construction zone, but they're not enforceable. The white signs in Ontario are the only regulated signs that are enforceable. So that's good to know. We will write you a ticket for violating that one, not for the other one. Now, construction zones, being unsafe in a construction zone could increase fines, could cause other issues, but it's not the speed. It's not the posted speed limit when it's yellow.
That's correct. Yellow or orange. Orange is construction zone. Yellow is advisory, usually on ramps, stuff like that. Not enforceable, but if you're going absurdly higher than that on the ramp and you wipe out, guess what?
You're responsible.
Nah, you are.
Do you have the right to refuse a car search? Well, it depends on what authority is being used to search your vehicle. If it's a statute, if it's based on authority of law, if it's criminal code search based on subsequent to arrest, if it's something that's different. If we say, can we search your car? You can say no. But if it's based on authority coming from the law, then no, you can't.
Right. The Liquor License Act allows us to search a vehicle. One of the ones that are actually crazy are radar detectors. Mm-hmm. I just have to have a belief that you have one in the car, and I can search you and everybody in the car and the entire car. The trunk, the door panels, everything. And we don't actually have to put it back together either.
Yes. And oddly enough, I find, especially with the high-end cars, people, as soon as our a multi-tool comes out, suddenly, magically, a radar detector it materializes in their hand. Here you go, officer.
Yep.
What are the laws with vaping in the car with a kid? Well, Smoke Free Ontario Act says that if you're in a motor vehicle with a passenger under the age of 16, you cannot vape, you cannot smoke, you cannot, it's to protect them. So that is a thing, and you can be charged. So nobody under the age of 16 if you're vaping. Now, there may be differences as to what is in the vape. If it's vape juice with nothing in it, I just think it's gross, but maybe it might not qualify. You'll need to read the act. But I would avoid it because we're all about protecting kids, really, all the time. Kids are the most important. Okay. Let's see here. Can you give me a ticket if you were sitting on private property for speeding? Mike wants to know. Yes, I can. I'm measuring your speed regardless of where I'm sitting. I am making my observations, and whether my foot is on private or public property, it make no difference. What is this? Can I drive a motorcycle with a car driving certificate? If you mean driver's license, the answer is no. You need a motorcycle license to drive a motorcycle. You need an automobile license to drive a motor vehicle. Every class covers what it covers. So yeah, if you have a G-class license, you can only drive motor vehicles that are covered by that license. You can get an endorsement or a learner's permit and do both, but you have to have what you have to have to drive the appropriate vehicle. Okay, moving on. Is someone gets their G2 6 months before their 5-year limit, do they lose the ability to get their G? It's a very good question. My understanding is that if you get your G2 6 months before you get your 5-year, they will extend the time. They may renew it, they may charge you, but you need to check with drivetest.ca or the MTO. They would be the best source of information there, because I've read some things, I'm not clear on it. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. They are truly the pros there. I've been told that when people get their G2, that it renews and they get an extra 5 years, they might be charged, and I just don't know. Okay, what is the darkest window tint that is legal? Tinted windows have a maximum block or rating that prevents light to come through. So there are two different standards you have to look at. One is for the light truck and passenger vehicle standard, and that will tell you whether or not you can get the vehicle safety. Guess what? If you fail a safety, you can't be on the road. Failing the safety means I can pull your license plates. So if you have 95% light blockage on your windows, you can't see out, I can't see in properly, that is going to be something I would pull your license plates for. Let's talk about where that license, that tint can be. On your front windshield, you can have no tint, zero, zilch, nada. If you have any tint on your windshield, your vehicle is unsafe. You get a ticket for the $110 for having the tinted windows, but I would deem your vehicle unsafe and I take your plates. Now, if your vehicle was manufactured before January 1st, 2017, you can have a 3-inch tint strip across the top. That is legal, but only for those vehicles manufactured before 2017. Why? Probably because they had to draw a line in the sand before they made it illegal for others. Others have said it's because there's sensors in the top of the window. I don't know. Not a mechanic. Now, when it comes to the windows directly left and right of the driver, you can have tint there. No more than 30% light blockage is permitted. That means that you cannot have 5% tint. You have to know that the numbers change depending on what manufacturer and what store is putting them on. Some say 5% tint and mean that 5% light is being blocked and 95 gets through. Others say 5% tint and it means that 95% is blocked and only 5% gets through. Can you guess which one's safe and which one's not? So, if you have tint that's too dark in the windows left and right of the driver, could you be an unsafe vehicle? Absolutely, you can. But you can also get a ticket for having those beyond the threshold for safe vehicle. And you can have a ticket for obscure interior vehicle through color or reflective coating. Yes, I think I said that correctly. In any case, that's another $110 ticket. That's for when an officer can't see inside, can't observe the goings-ons inside. And guess what? If you have a 30% light blockage, so you're safetied, but I can't see you because it's dark outside and the vehicle inside is obscured, I can't see inside, I can't identify a driver, you are still eligible for that ticket for obscuring the interior of your vehicle. And a couple of comments thanking us for what we're doing. Thank you for the thanks. We appreciate that you appreciate what we're trying to do here. We are here to educate, inform, dispel rumor, make sure that you know what we know when it comes to the traffic laws and can understand the perspective we are coming from. Maybe that'll motivate some people to not do certain things. At the end of the day, everything we do here is about traffic safety. We want to make sure that people get to where they're going safe and sound and home again. Additionally, we want to prevent you from getting tickets for things you didn't understand. Many people make modifications, changes to their vehicle because it looks cool. They don't realize that they're putting themselves in jeopardy for getting a whole bunch of tickets. And there are ways to get a whole bunch of tickets. Even things about e-bikes, we talk about those all the time. If you make a modification to make it faster than a stock e-bike, one that conforms to the legislation, you may find yourself getting a ticket that has a fine of $5,000 to $25,000 and a jail term up to 6 months. Well, most people just want to go faster. They don't get that they're putting themselves in harm's way when it comes to legal issues. And that's a big deal.
Absolutely, it is. That's a lot of money.
Could you imagine? I want to get to school on time, so I'm going to make my thing go 10 kilometers faster than stock, and now I got to charge for $25,000 from the courts.
Yep, because it becomes a motor vehicle.
Yeah, it's a motorcycle. You'd need a motorcycle license. So there's a ton of things. And we really don't want to have you go down that route. You choose to do it after you know, and then you deal with the consequences. But if you didn't know, that's a terrible thing. And you are still obligated. You're still responsible for knowing, or what is it? Not knowing. Ignorance of the law is not an excuse.
Yep.
But there was another saying or thing that you ought not, anyway, words that are jumbled in my head. I've seen drugged out people in the street. Is it mandatory to pick them up to get them help? So people that are in in stress, in struggle, in crisis. That's the word. Thank you very much. I knew there was a reason that you keep coming back. The people who are also putting themselves at risk. Someone who's unconscious on the ground, they're in need of some medical attention, likely. And yeah, police do intervene. We don't just walk on by. In fact, we'd be in neglect of our duty if we just left someone on the side of the road that could be in a crisis, depending on the observations.
So different levels of intoxication, depending on what it is, warrants that we actually take action. Liquor License Act mandates that, intoxicated in a public place could lead to an arrest. Could be a safety concern, but we do have a vulnerable sector of the population that are drug dependent, that are on our streets, that are possibly residing on our streets. And no, we don't just drag everybody away.
No, and I wasn't suggesting that was the case. So thank you for clarifying. Yeah, but we have a crisis intervention team. We have people that work with nurses. There's also people that work in the community that know the folks that live there. So it's not just see people on the street and pick them up, but obviously we want to check on people and make sure they're okay. Can I legally use underglow on motorcycles? If so, what colors? So underglow is a term that doesn't really specify what's going on. So underglow in most cases is lighting that illuminates the ground. And if it's only illuminating the ground, it's probably not a problem. In certain provinces and jurisdictions, it is a problem. Our suggestion is always only use this on private property. But if you are looking for how far can you get away with something, if it's not directing light directly left or out from the vehicle, outward, down only, then I think you're okay. I would avoid still blue, red, and green because those are regulated colors. But you should be okay. Now, accent lights that illuminate or reflect off of engine mounts and are just there to glow inside the engine compartment. I used to have that on my bike. I turned it off because I think it's now silly. But I liked it when I was riding it. I thought
It's so cool. 90s.
It was, and they asked for it back, and I had no choice. I had to clip the wires. I couldn't. Yeah. So it depends. But if you're projecting light forward, back, or left or right, you are violating a law somewhere. Just a matter of which one. So if you're projecting light forward, you're going to have improper headlights. If you're projecting light backwards, you're probably going to have improper taillights, and so on. So I would avoid it altogether, unless you're on private property. Anything to add on that one?
No, you got it all.
Okay. If you get caught driving with your G1, what happens? Well, I assume when you mean caught, you mean caught alone. So the offense is $110 for driving for G1 drive unaccompanied. That means you're not with a supervising driver who's qualified to supervise, because you have to have a full G driver with at least 4 years experience and a BAC, which is blood alcohol content, under 0.05. So if you don't have that, there's nobody in the car, you're alone, you're talking about a $110 fine, a 30-day suspension, and that's your first offense. If you're convicted the second time, it's a 90-day suspension. On your third, it is a removal. You get kicked out of the driver's the graduated licensing program. And that's not good, because you lose all time and money you've invested. Let's say you were 7 months and 20 days on your way to being a G2 driver. Well, guess what? If you got kicked out 3 times, you're done. You start back at 0. You have to wait another 8 months or 12 months, depending if you have training. That's not good, for you anyway. Not to mention the fact that you've got a history of suspensions that's going to make your insurance life miserable. So yeah. And then, additional things. The driver or the owner of the vehicle who let you drive in contravention of a condition, well, they could be charged too. Or if you took the vehicle without consent, you could be charged criminally for take vehicle without consent. Funny how that wording matches up.
And you know what? You'd have no insurance.
That's right.
Your insurance company wouldn't cover you.
Yeah, the vehicle might be insured for basic liability, but they would not cover the vehicle or could deny the claim because you are not a licensed driver without the condition of the person supervising you.
And if you do it on purpose, then it's on you.
Oh, yeah. Could you imagine taking mom's car for a joyride and wiping out the vehicle to find out that the $60,000, $70,000, $100,000 car is bye-bye, and your parents still have to pay the lease or finance on it because they don't own it, or that maybe they do and they just hate you for the rest of your life? I'm just saying.
Or, even worse, you get involved in a collision with somebody, hurt somebody, and now you're paying for it for the rest of your life. And
well, yeah.
Probably the vehicle owner as well.
Yeah, and not to mention yourself. Like you may need medical attention that won't get you other than the basic stuff. What is this? Hello, sir. Any chance of fighting a speed camera ticket? A friend was driving and refuses to pay. So you lent your vehicle to a friend and they got the ticket, not you. That's an interesting concept because it happens all the time. You are still responsible as the vehicle owner, regardless of who was driving. You can ask them to pay, and they can say no, and you're still responsible. If you don't, you don't get to renew your license. Going to court and saying, but it wasn't me, too bad. It's your responsibility as the vehicle owner. You should be very, very cautious as to who you're going to loan your vehicle out to. And really, my suggestion is don't loan your vehicle to anyone.
And you know what? Get some better friends.
Yes, if someone is not willing to pony up the money for something they did, they are not your friend. There's no question of that. Joyce Connor says, good morning. Hopefully everybody has a nice and safe day on the roads. Thank you very much. Boom, boom, boom. She also requests that we play Frank Sinatra tunes in the background. Sadly, we don't have licensing for Frank Sinatra, and we might lose half of our audience. But I appreciate Frank. Okay, let's keep on moving with stuff. How would you treat a BB gun at a car search that the suspect didn't tell you about? So if we search a vehicle and find something that resembles a weapon, we would obviously be treating it as a firearm until we can qualify that it isn't a firearm. But obviously, the investigation goes as the investigation goes.
It all depends on what we're searching it for. If there's a call for you having weapons or pointing it at somebody or something like that, then you may end in custody. If it's not, if the search is for something else and you find a BB gun is legal to be transported in a vehicle. But what you do with it is totally on you.
So a situation where we arrest someone for impaired driving, and when we do a search of your vehicle, because we do make a inventory search to make sure that valuables are protected and don't go missing when it's in the tow yard, we would then, and that no one makes a claim saying that there was a brick of gold in the backseat when there wasn't. So we would do an inventory search. If we came across a legal weapon that was stored appropriately, then it would just be inventoried and said we found that.
Yep, absolutely.
So, yes, thank you for bringing that up. Can you get a ticket for having your tires stick out? Sure. That's called an improper tire. If you have the wrong size tire on the wrong size rim, if you have a rim that it protrudes outside because you put an oversized tire for the vehicle and it's not covered by a fender flare, fender or mud flap, you could be eligible for tickets. And I would say there's a large number of vehicles out there that are violating the rules when it comes to tires. There's reasons for having tires protected, covered, and they start from safety, and they're all safety, but one starts from pedestrian safety. In the event of a collision or contact with a pedestrian, large tires have the ability to suck a pedestrian into the wheel well. Very, very badly at the office, create injury that would otherwise have been less if you had a proper size tire. Additionally, when you're driving, you're kicking up what we call a rooster tail, is that big spray of water. You probably see it on F1 racetracks where the tire goes and you have the stream of water into the air. Well, that's a problem because you can blind other people. You can make it hard for other vehicles to see. So you're creating an issue for other drivers on the road. A lot of things that people don't consider. They're like, it looks cool, and it does look cool. I can appreciate that monster tires on a vehicle look cool. They have to be covered. And yes, you can get ticketed, although we don't seem to see a large number of people pulled over for it. That's not because we're avoiding pulling over or saying it's okay. What we're doing is we're focusing on the driver behavior that more commonly ends in serious injury and death. We're looking for speeders. We're looking for distracted and aggressive drivers, and we're looking for impaired drivers. That's not to say we turn a blind eye. We're just focused on certain things over others. And if I pull you over for one, you're already there. I'm probably going to give you for the other one too.
Yeah, absolutely. Me too.
Can you turn left on a red when the left road you're turning onto is a one-way street? Okay. There is one time in Ontario law you can make a left turn on a red, and that is if you are making a left onto a one-way from a one-way. Both roads have to be one-way. If you're on a two-lane road making a left onto a one-way, you may not make the turn on a red. Now, if you are, there's another condition. You have to make sure it's not signed preventing it, because you could be in a situation where it says no left on red. Additionally, it has to be safe to do so. I can't think of any other reason to restrict it, but that's pretty much it. What do you do if a police officer refuses to show you the speed radar? Well, I got news for you. In Ontario, you don't have to show drivers the speed radar. I often do because it's convenient if I have it on me. If it's the unit in my vehicle, it's unsafe to get you out of your vehicle to come over and have a look. Now, I will offer to show it to you in most cases, but it is not requirement for me to do it. Some people want to see it, and hey, it's no problem, but you don't have to. So even if they don't show it to you, that doesn't change a thing.
And you know what? Sometimes a very angry driver that's demanding to see it, you don't want them running around on the highway, coming back to your car.
Well, that's the thing. It's
being
a
a
safety
pedestrian in traffic, it's a safety thing.
And with the last 2 years with COVID, you don't want to invite someone into your vehicle because they'd have to get into your vehicle to see it in most cases, or at the very least stick their head in. So for protecting our space, that was another thing.
Yep.
But that's even outside of COVID, there was never a reason to have to show it to you.
And you know what? The speed that's shown on the radar gun isn't the exact speed that you were going. Might not be the maximum speed. You might have been slowing down. You might have been speeding up. So I can take multiple readings from the car, especially using a laser, and 20 over, 21 over, 22 over, 21 over, 20, 19 over, 18 over. But I already know you were doing 22 over, and I will testify that, yes, you were doing 22 over.
It's important to know that speeding occurs. The offense of speeding occurs at 1 kilometer over. Actually, at a fraction, technically, anything over the speed limit is speeding. The difference in the number goes to what the dollar fine will be and how many points will be attributed or awarded on conviction. But if I catch you for speeding at 1 kilometer over or 100 kilometers over, 100 kilometers is a bad example because I'm getting stunned. So 49 kilometers and 39 kilometers and 1 kilometer. It's the same charge. It's only when you trigger certain thresholds when you get into stunt driving that it really changes the actual charge. Actually, we charge you for speeding too.
Yep, absolutely.
So
I give an example, the Motorized Snow Vehicle Act. There's one charge for speeding. There's one fine. There's no points, but there's just one fine.
Regardless of how fast you're going.
And you don't need a radar gun to prove it.
Oh, right on.
You just need to be speeding.
Can MTO pull over a passenger vehicle? We had this question yesterday too, and the answer is yes, they can. We've got to really clarify as to what the details are, because I was chatting with an MTO officer at a recent event where we were something called Project Erase, where we're looking to end street racing behavior on roads everywhere. And I don't know if the acronym was just said correctly, but Erase is basically that. We're looking at unsafe modifications and people who are conducting themselves in an unsafe manner in the roads. And they were MTO officers doing inspections on vehicles, and the conversation was, what's the story? And they have expanded authority. They can do more than they used to. And it's not that they didn't have the authority before. They had a mandate saying they weren't doing it. That's my understanding. Right. They always had the authority, but they're now doing more because there's need. It's a major issue. They see issues, and they do have the authority, and you must pull over for them.
They are provincial offences officers that can issue the same tickets, fines, and all that. They have the authorities under the law. During the COVID lockdown, they got additional authorities under the several acts that were enacted during the lockdown. So, they're used. They're out there. They make the road safer. We love having them out there.
They are awesome, and they know so much. I was talking to a guy named Gary at the event. Gary, if you're watching, hello. We had a great conversation, and he was teaching me things that I didn't even know. Just mind-blowing details in those inspection guides as to what's legal. There's a lot of folks who may think they're driving a legal vehicle, and if Gary saw your vehicle, you'd have no license plates. And I wouldn't have even had known prior to the conversation with him, but now I will take more license plates if I'm out there.
You were explaining to me about the height of the headlights from the roadway.
Yeah.
I didn't know that either.
Like I said, and he wrote it. He was involved in the writing of that inspection guide. So really, we got from the horse's mouth. Do you need an international driver's license to drive in Canada if you have a driver's license in the United States? No, you do not. You're entitled to come here and drive. And in fact, foreign licenses in general are usually accepted. If it's a license that doesn't contain any English, the international license will translate. That's really what it is, a translation card. But yeah, American licenses absolutely accepted here. You can drive while you're visiting. If you become a resident, you have to apply for a Ontario license within 60 days.
Yep, there's a limit on the amount of time you can drive here when you're visiting or becoming a resident. You can sometimes exchange driver's license when you do become a resident here. Straight off exchange.
With an American license, you would be able to.
Give up one and get the other one. You cannot drive on a foreign license if you have a driver's license in Ontario, and especially if that one is suspended.
Yes, a suspension anywhere is a suspension here, and that's very good to know. I do remember reading something that if you're more than 6 months driving with an international or foreign license, you need to have the international driver's license. You need to go and find out exactly. For American, I don't think it's an issue. I've driven in the United States for over 6 months. I lived down there, and I was back and forth. I had a place there, and as long as I was not a full-time resident, I didn't need a license there. My primary residence was here. In any case, check before you come. But again, if you're just coming over for the weekend, even staying for a month visiting, you don't need to get it. Not to worry. Comment of your voice is impeccable. Well, thank you very much. I've had it for most of my life. I try and take care of it. Hot drinks, but thank you very much. Scroll up. There's more questions. Scroll up where? Can I pull over a police officer if I catch them speeding on my speedometer? No, you don't have the lawful authority to stop vehicles as a private citizen, and police officers are not. They're not restricted by speed. They're exempt from the speed. They're allowed to exceed the speed. That's what I'm trying to say. They're exempt and permitted to exceed the speed limit in the lawful execution of their duties. What does that mean? Well, we're allowed to go to emergency calls and speed to get there. We're allowed to speed up to monitor traffic and look for people who are using their cell phones or wearing seatbelts. If I was not allowed to exceed the speed limit and everybody else was exceeding the speed limit, I'd never get anywhere because I'd be going perpetually backwards. And, and the folks that were violating the rules, I'd only be able to see the people directly beside me. If we were all going the same speed and I could never go to the pack in front, well, I'd never catch anybody. And everyone behind me would correct their behavior. So there are reasons why we need to be able to exceed the speed limit. And no, you cannot pull them over. Although it would be interesting if someone tried.
Yeah, I don't know how that would work.
I don't think it would end very well.
No, I don't know how that would work.
Pull over, I don't know. Yeah. Is there a certain speed I have to slow at a yield sign? Well, you must yield. So it's all based on the traffic that's approaching. So if you are yielding to traffic and there is no traffic, then you can continue through. I don't think there's a speed that's required on yield. Are you aware of a speed?
No, I don't think there's a specific speed, but you have to make sure that the way is clear and yield, give way to all the other traffic that could be there, might be there, or might reasonably be expected to be there.
Yes. And if you are wrong when you think that, that's bad. You must take caution. It is an intersection of sorts. You are going to be introduced to other traffic, and if you guess incorrectly, it's a bad thing.
And I can't imagine you could exceed the road speed limit.
No, of course not.
So
the posted speed limit is still the posted speed limit, but they're just asking about how much you have to reduce your speed to yield, and it really depends on what your observations are. Does a vehicle get an automatic impoundment for open alcohol? No, open alcohol doesn't necessarily mean an impoundment that I'm aware of.
So open alcohol or consuming alcohol could be two different things.
Yes.
It might lead to a vehicle impoundment, but no. But I can't imagine that you're going to retain your alcohol.
Yes, the impoundment of your alcohol, or at least the
seizure of it.
The seizure of it. I'm just trying to think of someone. Not very often will you see someone who's driving around with a Mickey in their right hand who's not going to be investigated and possibly found for having alcohol over a limit. I'm trying to picture the scenario here.
And you know what? We have been around the block more than once. We know all the little tricks. We know. I've found people that had secondary windshield washer fluid reservoirs under the hood filled with alcohol and a little tube that comes into their glove compartment.
No kidding.
You know what? Little things like that. That's open alcohol readily available.
I've never seen that, but that is creative and illegal.
Beer cases opening from the bottom, so it makes it look like they're not opened. Yeah.
Interesting. Please give us the latest regulations for pets in cars and traveling. Regulations. I don't think there's a specific regulation. We talked about it earlier in the show. Essentially, you cannot have them on you or interacting with you. We suggest backseat, and we suggest tethered or crated for their safety and yours. But in terms of and obviously don't leave them in hot cars. That's bad. I am in a small town. Is it legal to drive on marked gravel ride with a dirt bike? I give you the dirt bike answer question. I am not a dirt bike guy, although I really enjoyed dirt bikes when I was a kid. You can't be on any road. Dirt bikes are prohibited from the road. They're not street legal.
So it doesn't matter whether it's a gravel road, paved road. No dirt bikers are allowed on the road at all, and cannot be even driven directly across them like an ATV can.
You'd have to walk them across.
Certain jurisdictions allow the four-wheeled ATVs to be driven on the roadway, but these are ATVs that must be straddled. Side-by-sides are not included in that. But a dirt bike? No, absolutely not. When I was younger, using my dirt bike, I used to have to get off, push it across the road, and get back on again and continue on.
Right on. PC from 43 Division is watching and says hello. I say hello back. Is there such a thing as a fix-it ticket here? No, we don't have fix-it tickets. We have warnings, which is not a ticket because there's no action required, but that would be the closest thing to a fix-it ticket. There used to be a period of time where you could get a ticket, come to the station, show us your license, and then we'd rescind it. That doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah, it used to be called a 48-hour report, and you had 48 hours to fix whatever was wrong with it.
And that disappeared.
Or then the charge went through.
And that's, I think, was made possible by the fact that there were physical tickets and I didn't have to put it in the box in time. And is that how, or was it actually a different report?
No, this was before my time. So.
Oh, okay. When I was a kid, I remembered hearing about this stuff, but since I've been a member of the services, which was in 2000 when I joined, it's not been possible. You get a ticket, that's it. Now, when you go to court and you show you proved it, that's up to the court to do what they do. They might rescind, withdraw it. They may give you a deal, but no fixed tickets. What do we have here? Can we use a phone on a red light? The answer is no. You must be legally parked in order for you to use your cell phone, even in a red light situation when your vehicle is not in motion. Even if you were in park at the time, you are considered driving your motor vehicle and not allowed to use your handheld communication device. Can't even hold it. Even if the battery was dead, you can't hold it. We've had courts convict because people have all sorts of stories. Well, the battery was dead. Well, it doesn't matter. It's a cell phone and you're using it. If it's in your hand, you're using it. You could be using it as a hammer.
No, actually, you can't. Not in your car.
Not in your car. No, I'm saying if you were using it as a hammer, it's still using it.
Yeah.
It's a handheld communication device by description, by acknowledged description. Why a child in a taxi is allowed to be in your lap but not in your own car. There are exemptions under the Highway Traffic Act that allow buses and taxis to transport children without a car seat. Is it a good idea? I get why. It's because if you need to get out of a dangerous situation or a situation, they have to make it possible. Right? There has to be a way for you to safely transport your children in certain situations. And it's not reasonable to say you're going to carry a car seat with you everywhere you go. However, in your personal vehicle, you must have it. And even in an Uber, the Ubers are not covered under that exemption. Ubers and ride shares.
You know what? I wouldn't want to put my kids into a situation where they could get hurt. And no, you can't hold on to them tight enough.
No.
In a collision.
No. And, talk about buses. Buses are legal to transport children. And I see all sorts of injuries as a result of children, even adults, flying through the air. I've seen some horrendous video during a minor, either a abrupt stop to avoid collision or a collision with a bus, and people who are standing are not paying attention, not holding on, and they just fly.
Yep.
Injuries happen even in the safest of places. It's just... The reason we have laws to protect children in your vehicle is because we want to protect them all the time. We don't want children to get hurt. We don't want anyone to get hurt. I found a high-capacity magazine. I think I want to keep it. Any ideas? High-capacity magazines, things that are over 10 rounds, are prohibited devices. Just having possession of it is an offense under the Criminal Code of Canada. So the only way to keep it would be to disable it and make it not a 10-round magazine, pinning it. That being said, it has to be done functional and permanent. So, yeah, just possessing it is against the law. So I would suggest either surrendering it to police, saying you found it, and if you are set on keeping it, you have to make sure that it's legally converted. If a family member has insurance on the car, can I still drive? So, yes, if the vehicle is legally or is insured and the driver, you, are legally permitted to drive it by way of both having the appropriate license and permission from the owner or person in charge of it, then yes, you can drive it. However, if you live in the same residence, very often the insurance company will want you to be listed on the policy, and failing to do that might result in being,
Sean, I can add in there as well that some policies, depending on how it's written, don't allow anybody under the age of 25 to operate a car. So, no, you wouldn't be covered by the insurance because you were specifically under the age of 25 told, no, you cannot.
Well, there you go. And they can deny you. So the big thing is the insurance company is not, I'm just watching as Instagram is telling me that we've gone live too many times or said hello too many times. I don't know. It's currently giving us another error.
Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Hello.
So if you live with a family member or if you're of a certain age that might be restricted based on that policy, know that they could deny your claim. Your best thing is to be your best friend to the insurance company. Tell them what you want to do. They will tell you if it's going to cost you money or not. If it costs a nominal amount of money, do it because it's better than being denied on a claim. What's the law for loud stereo or subwoofer? If you are creating unnecessary noise, whether it be stereo, horn, exhaust system, tires squealing, well, tires also going to be stunt driving, but those things are all unnecessary noise. They fall under the same charge of create unnecessary noise under the Highway Traffic Act, and you can get a $110 ticket. If you continue to do it, you get lots of charges. Instead of getting a ticket, you might get a summons to court where you have to answer for why you don't understand the rules and why you choose not to follow them. So there you go.
Not only the Highway Traffic Act, Sean, but municipal bylaws as well.
There are sound, yes, absolutely.
And you know what? There's nothing wrong with having a good stereo system. There's nothing wrong, but as soon as you're interfering with other people's enjoyment, then it is wrong.
Absolutely. We've covered this. How cool is it that I'm watching a TikTok of a cop while driving? Not cool. You're committing an offense right now. Can you fight an ASE camera speeding ticket? Oh, by the way, for the person who is watching a cop live on there is an alternative. If you still want to hear my voice, download the podcast. We have a podcast. It's called TPS Traffic Jam. You can listen to it safely and legally while you're in your car. That's the way to do it legally. Can you fight an automatic speed enforcement camera? We're time? Yeah, it's 11 o'clock. Okay, we're going to wrap it up, but I want to try and get a couple more questions before we do. And the answer to the question of can you fight, you can choose to try. There's photographic evidence, and that might prevent you from winning, but you're entitled to your day in court. What happens if a 14-year-old is caught behind the wheel of a car? They would be charged, and the owner of the motor vehicle for permitting them to do it would be charged. Or if they didn't know what was happening, the child would then be charged for take vehicle without consent, which is a criminal offense. Are cosmetic modifications to the exterior of a car legal? Yes, but you must disclose them, and they must be safe. Disclose them to the ministry. Like if you change the color of the car, you have 6 days to change it. What's a radar detector? A radar detector is a detector that detects radar. We use radar speed measurement or LiDAR, laser speed measurement. And if you have a device that will either interfere with our ability to measure your speed or to tell you when we're doing that, that's an offense under the Highway Traffic Act, and we can search and seize the vehicles, or search the vehicle and seize the device if we have belief that you have it. It's also a $170 ticket with a 2 demerit point win for you. It's not really a win. What happens if I'm smoking a spliff while driving and I have my G1? I assume this is a troll because anyone and their cousin knows that smoking marijuana while driving is going to be an offense under the law. Additionally, driving a G1 unaccompanied is a Highway Traffic Act offense. So you're probably getting arrested because you are likely impaired by drug. So bad day for you. The vehicle will be impounded and all sorts of things. Is a rear muffler delete legal? I'm not aware of a front muffler delete, but a muffler delete in general is illegal. You must have a muffler to have a vehicle on the road in Ontario, assuming that the vehicle is newer in nature. If you have a 1912 Model T, then you're going to be okay without a muffler. But new vehicles, yeah, you got to have a muffler. I'm in police foundations going into second year. Any tips for me going into the workplace as a police officer? I'm assuming work hard, stay in shape, do your best, never give up, never surrender. No, it's all about being the best candidate you can be. Do your very best to meet all the requirements and exceed them. Volunteer. Make sure that you are showing us that the commitment to the community that you want to serve is real. Additionally, make sure your driving is good. Don't get caught for doing something silly like speeding or because that is going to affect you negatively for getting on if you don't respect the laws that you're being asked to enforce. Is it legal to use a police radar jammer? You put jammer. It's illegal. You cannot use anything to prevent us from measuring your speed. Am I allowed to modify the suspension of my old truck? I believe it would be safer. You need to make sure you're doing it safely and take direction from a mechanic. I'm going to go through here. I think we're wrapping it up. I'm looking for something else that we can talk about, but ultimately I have static in my ear and I don't know why. It could be the fan. But I'm looking for some knockout questions to see if there's anything here. Tomorrow morning, 9:30 in the morning, we will be back. We will be back. Yes. I'm going to be joined by Jerry Agar at News Talk 1010 when we talk to his audience. Now, of course, you're welcome to come for the ride, but we'll be speaking to his audience by text, by phone, and then we'll also take some of your questions. It's really good ones. If you want to join us, go on to VoiceOver Cop on Twitter. Use the app called Volley. Ask me questions because I will put those in my back pocket when I go on the air with him tomorrow morning. So you get early access to get your questions asked by going onto VolleyApp. My username there is VoiceOver Cop. We've got a whole section. The invite link is in my Twitter. Then we'll finish off with Jerry at 10 o'clock, and we'll be back to a full hour just with you, just so we can answer your traffic and police questions uninterrupted by radio personalities. Yeah, that's what's happening. I look forward to the radio callers. The phone-in callers are always fun. All right. Have a wonderful day. Stay safe. Don't drive unless you're sober, because we don't want drugs or alcohol interfering with your ability to go home, like because you're going to jail type thing, or hurting somebody. Have a great day.